So you guys were telling me that you've been having some issues with your plants.
So we got 3 plants, agaves, for the front of our space, and they were perfectly positioned. And then Pietro decided to like straighten everything out.
Yeah, they weren't perfectly positioned. They were like
They were perfectly positioned.
No, they looked like super like off kilter, like they were about to fall over.
Uh-huh.
So I moved them so that they're in this straight line. So that because there's like basically like our front porch area has like the sidewalk, and then there's like a bit of an incline, like going towards the space. And so I just moved the plants so that it didn't look like they were like just like slowly like keeling over.
Yeah, as one does.
And then
immediately one was attacked and destroyed.
Like as in like these are heavy planters, heavy planters, and it looked like the guy picked it up and threw it down on the sidewalk. And the plant was out. There's dirt everywhere, and we thought, damn, that really sucks. And then it happened again.
And then I told Pietro it's because you made him symmetrical, and he got mad.
Yeah. So after the second time that happened, I
made him unsymmetrical.
I took one of them out to remove the symmetricalness, and just the other day while we were in the gallery,
he put it back.
I didn't. Put it back.
Yeah. They were looking very straight.
I didn't put it.
Yes, you did.
I didn't put it back while we were in the gallery having a very important business meeting. Very important.
Yeah.
We hear
make or break.
We hear basically a shriek,
Viking scream. Like
yes, a howling of a banshee.
Okay.
And then a like kind of like plop, like just like something hitting the ground, and then like.
I didn't even get up because I knew what happened.
Mm-hmm. And I ran out. Sasha was like, "Get a broom." I thought he was saying, "Get a broom" to like hit the guy who'd done it, but I'm pretty sure he was just saying I needed to clean it up. And then it was the other one, the other agave, the one in the middle, had also just been assaulted. So it's not specific to the plant. I think it's an aggression. And I
think we need more because if we run out of plants, I mean, you have to like.
Does it feel personal?
Them. Yeah, like.
No, not at all. It feels like we're just like wrestling with the earth, the spirits.
Yeah, that kind of those kinds of obstacles.
Elemental LA.
Yeah. One of our artists that we work with, he suggested that we just put beer and packs of cigarettes in like the planters, so people know that we're cool.
So you're like, it's like the LA street equivalent of leaving out cookies for Santa.
Yes, exactly.
Or extortion, or being extorted. Yes.
Nice. Well, boys, it's been like probably almost a year since you guys came on last.
Yeah.
And it seems like you guys have been up to a lot in the intervening time.
We have.
Says you've been pretty busy making wooden guns and car.
Had we done the car show? No.
I think when the last time we talked, you guys had just done your first show, and then the car show has since happened. So, do you guys want to talk a little bit about that? What that show was and what that was like?
So our idea for the show basically comes partially out of the fact that we spent months looking for a space to do a show in, because that show that we did was, basically we weren't paying rent while we were there, which was really helpful, and because we didn't have any money to be able to pay for like hourly space, because everybody's on Peer Space now, like getting like that type of like empty space, white walls is costs so much more.
Yeah.
So we were looking, deal after deal fell through, and then finally a art dealer who's fairly popular art dealer in LA, Molly Barnes.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out Molly Barnes. She has a radio show on 10:50 a.m. K Mozart. She asked if we want to do a show in her garage, and so we thought like, oh fuck, like that feels like how do we do a show in a garage and make it cool? And you know what goes in garages? Cars.
Nice.
So we bought a 19
98.
80 Oldsmobile 88, and we had like 7 artists replace the components of the car. So we stripped it apart, gutted it, took out the engine, and we had different artists put pieces in different parts of the car.
What was the name of the exhibit?
Disassembly Line.
The Disassembly Line. Yeah. And just to give, like, so that this can be a standalone episode, can you guys give me like your brief 2-minute elevator pitch of what Spy Projects is?
That's dangerous.
Yeah. So Spy Projects is a gallery that
chapel.
It's an all-terrain vehicle that Sasha, Filiminov, myself, and our third partner Gabriella Rothbart, who we love,
number 1 all time,
and that we founded as, I think. We saw like art in LA that was being, and what galleries were really showing. We thought there was like a need there for something that kind of went out of the box, that wasn't afraid to do shit that was weird or shit that wasn't profitable. And so far it's been going very well. Spy is sort of, we always have imagined it as being something that something that can both kind of try to fight the forces of like the evil forces of evil, the market, and like sort of commercial and private institutions in art, and try to show people like really, really good art, put on really good fucking shows and great parties. And so far it's been going, that's sort of what I think we've done. Nice.
Hell yeah. That's great ethos. And how did you guys first join forces? Like, what was that? What's your origin story?
I don't know where I was. I was somewhere in the world, not at home. And I texted Pietro saying we needed to write a manifesto. This was like junior year of college.
You guys met in college?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we wrote a manifesto. The next step was how do you implement the manifesto?
We wrote like 4 manifestos. Like we revised and revised and revised that thing a lot.
There's 2 parts actually, because there's some disagreements into the end game. But we then took the next step of how do we implement this, and we figured the most holistic option was a cooperative kind of incorporation. And then we kind of tried it out, and then realized that having a bunch of people pull their own weight is pretty tough to manage.
Yeah. I mean, look, we love everybody that we did that with. But it's
different. We're working with all of them.
Yeah, still. And we've worked with all of them. But it's difficult, because people want different things, and it's hard, particularly when you're in school. That's not to say anything bad about cooperatives, but we wanted more creative control. So that didn't really work. And then, Sash, by the way, just since basically step 1, he started saying we need Gab, we need Gabriella, we need Gab, because there are things that we are good at, I think, or things that we have fun doing, that we work really hard doing, the ideas, the physical implementation of projects, or the coordination and logistics of a current show leading up to it. We are horrible with money. We are terrible with money.
I'd like to correct him on that. I'd like to live in a world where
make sure, Sasha, sorry to stop you, but if you could just keep that mic pointed at your...
I'd like to live in a world where money doesn't exist, and I like to play pretend like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so
who
we're
gets
out.
to live?
So here we are, out of money, and we realize, oh fuck, we need Gab. We need Gab to help us, and so Gab came on as sort of our linchpin to actually make this thing into something that's viable long term. But yeah,
when you first said Gab, I thought you were talking about the right wing social media platform,
which I'm on.
And I was like, that's a pretty badass way to start an art studio.
True.
Starting a gallery on Gab is like it's really funny because it's like right wingers like
it is genius
because it's America
I see the gears turning, Sasha.
yeah.
because it's America. It's like you can't like they can't like you can't stop Disney from making like woke shit or whatever the hell they care about. But it's like you can start your own platform. And we've seen since like 2016, like just so many platform offshoots of like Twitter, of like Amazon, of like all these tech like social media platforms, but just for conservatives. But it's like, what's the point of being on it if you can't have people raging at you? You know, that's sort of the point of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. We did. So we did it. We wrote. We were like, how do we implement these ideas? A lot of them had to do with scale, and it comes from an idea of like, how do you make like what is an art that is like vital and effective and matters in the current landscape of culture. And we realized at a certain point that it requires a much larger to really like impact people, to really like get in people's heads, to break that template of what they think art is. The scale has to be very like changed in some way. It has to be very big or very small. So
you're saying the scale of the art itself or the impact, or like when you use the word scale, how are you?
Size. I mean, I think like literally size.
Size matters.
Size matters. Size really does matter. I mean, I truly believe this. I really think like a shape, like Richard Serra, a box that's a foot by a foot by a foot is different than a box that's 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. Shapes, sizes, visually, when things get larger or much smaller, if it has an impact on your brain. And so, but that requires resources. That requires like coordination and like the like resources to be able to like pull that type of shit off. And we thought, well, why just restrict ourselves to basically like what we can do at home when we can bring in other artists, we can bring in other people who sort of like fuck with the like an idea, a concept, and do something much bigger. And in that way also like get access to more resources as well, and that's ultimately the for any like group, like a mass project, that's the point of it, is to do large scale things. The pyramids weren't built by one person.
Slaves. How do you guys like define and conceptualize your respective roles in Spy? Like what I would intuit that wearing the term "what kind of hat do you wear" would be something you guys find reprehensible, but like
I do the sports.
Yeah, what's your guys' like
Sasha's the jock.
What do your badges say when you go to conventions?
Yeah, we have literal. We're also Gab, Sasha, and I. We're all co-directors, so we are all partners in the gallery. Gab is in charge of what's it called? She's gallery manager. She's in charge of our finances and accounting.
Is this sensitive information?
No, I mean,
I think it might be sensitive information.
Is it sensitive information?
She's the paid
We're
grown-up
clandestine operative.
Yeah,
group.
we're
TMI?
clandestine. We do a lot of each other's work too. But the things that I'm just gonna say what Gab is really good at is she can do she's really good at staying organized.
Mm-hmm.
There are tasks that need to be done that require a lot of research and a lot of coordinated effort, and that's something she's talented at. Sasha's really good at building things. He's a man with a hammer.
And I dance. I'm like the dancing court.
And he dances.
You do the hammer dance?
Yeah, the hammer dance.
He's very talented at that.
I have cymbals. I clap them, and yeah.
And I do sales. I think we all curate.
Okay, beautiful. And Sasha, you are an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Pietro, have you ever made any art in your life? Do you consider yourself an artist? I know that's a very provocative question to ask, but
he's made some art.
I have, I think, but I don't.
Good stuff.
I don't consider myself an artist.
Okay.
No. No.
I kind of think about you, Pietro, from my limited knowledge being on the outside of this all, you kind of seem like you're the straw that stirs the drink. Would that be an apt description of what you do?
I have no idea.
Never heard that before.
I have no idea what that means.
I have been. Some people have referred to me as a straw. That I still like to stir things up sometimes.
Anatomically accurate, I think.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm thin and tubular.
It's an NBA term. The straw that stirs the drink is like the player on the team that like is able to kind of integrate all the other role players, and it's not always like a tangible contribution, but the whole thing wouldn't run without
my contributions are tangible. I don't know.
Like you're the grease that
Pietro's
lubes the wheels,
are very
the gears.
tangible. Yeah. I think I would be more of the
Sasha's the straw. He's the way we said it. Sasha is the spirit and guts of it, and I'm the voice. I'm the one who talks.
Gotcha.
And Gab is like the right brain. She's the right brain and the hands.
So like,
or maybe the arms.
So like Gab's the arms, you're the mouth, and then Sasha's the pineal gland. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah!
Thyroid. He's the thyroid gland.
Sasha, I'm curious, when you first encountered this straw man here in college, what was your first? For those of you who don't know, Pietro is my cousin, so I'm curious. What was your first impression when you ran into this? Amicable beanstalk of a man.
It was pretty good. I thought high strung at first, but we talked. We liked pretty much the same things. I think one of our first interactions was one of those like, name your favorite painting on 3, 1, 2, 3, go, and we named like the same like obscure Russian academic painting by Repin.
Nice.
Which was like
the Zaporozhian Cossacks.
Yeah, letter from the Zaporozhian Cossacks, which was like, I mean, I have no idea why at the time I had no idea why he liked it. I was like, who the hell are you?
They all look like Santa. That's why they look so happy in it. It's just a bunch of like it's a bunch of like Eastern European looking dudes with mustaches looking like that.
Okay.
That
brought the best diss track ever.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just they writing this incredible letter.
Look that up. Jamie?
I can't wait to get a Jamie. I feel like that's the mark of having like a quote unquote successful podcast is when you can have a Jamie look stuff up for you.
Look that up.
Yeah. A Chris to produce. Yeah. No, my first interaction with Sasha was like I wasn't feeling like he went to RISD. Sasha went to art school. I went to Brown, and I just for a variety of reasons, I just really wasn't feeling it at that point in time, and I was like it was sort of like I meet this guy who is Russian, and I've always had I'm a weeb for Russia. I love the literature, I love the art, and he also just like sort of had like sort of the same kind of what's the word, like maybe contrarian or like just conflict view of art, like feeling like things that people weren't like really looking at it in the right way, and we didn't really know what like the right way was, but we felt like everybody was wrong. Exactly, that pretty much was it. And then it was like, and we also, I think another part of it was that basically since the very beginning of when we met, we've had basically a professional working relationship. Like it's like kind of with linking and building. It's like I don't think Sasha and I have ever like not been working on something like passively at least. I got, in my opinion, some of the best pieces he's ever made by writing his artist statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has.
So you guys kind of inspire each other to do your best work.
He's pushed some of my favorite books onto me. Yeah.
Yeah, he read more of my homework assignments than maybe I even read, I think.
That's good. Sasha, while we're on the topic of mustaches, I'm really curious. Your mustache has changed a couple hues since I saw you yesterday. I'm curious what's the name of the color that you're sporting today? Do you remember?
Honestly, think like life has caught up with me. At this point, there was no dying involved. This just kind of happened. I just like stained, rather, I guess, from all the like blood of my enemies that I've been drinking.
Okay.
Yeah, and nosebleeds too. It's a combination of both.
Yeah.
I thought you just got busy on some Tootsie Rolls for a minute.
Yeah.
No, at least not that I can remember.
No, it's the blood of his enemies, and it's a stop. It's like it means stop to anybody who want to go past that point. It means stop it right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So getting back to this show, to the Disassembly Line, how did you guys find the car?
I have a Bulgarian friend, Chris.
We all need a Bulgarian friend.
Chris Petkov. Shout
The
out Chris
enforcer.
Petkov. Yeah, he's literally number one. I told him I needed a car for less than $1,000. As like, I described it as like mid '90s. Like, it was right when when like designers made cars pre '90s, and then the engineers would make them. Or, excuse me, how did it go? Yeah. And then it switched in the 90s to like the engineers making the cheapest car, and then the designers like kind of
Like
fucking with
pre-spaceship looking car. Like we wanted a car with like hard edges, something that like was not just didn't look
the
like
plasticky kind of shit that we see now.
like
Or,
a
excuse me, it's
bubble,
not the
weird
design.
bubbly.
It's
You wanted angles.
yeah, they had sales and then the engineers. So that was
So you're saying initially it was designers would design
the car,
something, and then the engineer
salesman
would execute.
Yeah, and then the salesman would sell it. But now
Yeah.
it's like sales telling
Designers
designers
and
what to
engineers.
make, and then the
Gotcha.
engineers would try to figure it out.
It just like the car, like
The car's nondescript as it can get. It's perfect.
yeah, it was perfect. It was
We wanted the least context possible, like aesthetically,
but just slightly older, like just a little bit like out of time, because and that's what we had with the 88.
Not enough to be nostalgic.
What was the model again that you guys settled on?
1998, 88 Oldsmobile.
The year was 1998.
Yeah,
The
and it was an
model number is
Oldsmobile model
88.
called that 88.
It does seem kind of like in the same category. You know how many like jokes there are about a Buick is just like the kind of just American blah
Very,
car.
very, very similar vibe.
In that it's kind of sweet spot of American non-exceptionalism,
Way too
non-exceptionalism
big,
in the marketplace of car design.
Exactly. Heavy, big, just nondescript town car.
Inefficient.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you guys have that model in mind when you were looking, or was it just like
not at all?
described it,
We sat like at the the bike path, like watching cars going down the PCH, like just like going like that one could be good, that one could be good, like looking at the shapes of the cars and trying to decide. Like and it was just I remember doing that just like a few days before we ended up like putting down the money to buy that one. And the car was not functional. Like the car was absolutely not functional. And we actually had to, like you needed like to drive a flatbed in Beverly Hills, you need a license. So we managed to get around that. But like transporting the car was absolutely like ridiculous. It was an art object in every way and lacked almost all functionality other than you can sit in it and move it on wheels. Yeah, and that was Disassembly Line. That was crazy. It was a crazy experience. It was like doing, like the fact that we just managed to somewhat pull it off. Like itself felt like an accomplishment.
Yeah, I was really impressed by this idea of, creating this container and then, inviting, challenging, giving permission to all these artists to fill the container in whatever way they wanted.
Yeah, very little communication between the artists too about what they were making. The idea was we do a show like a group show where you just pick works and the artists don't really know who else is in the group show. They don't really know like what pieces their work is going to be next to, but we just scrunch it down like a lot to a car, meaning that like the pieces are basically right next to each other. And so it was half random, half commissioned work, like being like, you need to make something for this, and half like us saying like, oh, we could just put this in here, or we could put that in there.
I was curious, how did you divvy up the real estate of the car? Like, what was the process like? Who got to choose the steering wheel versus the trunk versus was that a process? How did you guys
decide
who got what?
Just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, we approached a lot of artists by saying like, we want you to do like the parking tickets and the like in the registration. We want you to do the steering wheel. We want you to be in the back seat. We want you to be in the trunk. Other artists were like, I want to take that part. I want to take that part. You know, it was a bit of both.
Okay.
I would say.
Some artists' work we just liked and knew they would excel.
You need a mic for those words.
Sorry. Some artists' work we liked and knew they would excel. In general, whatever we gave them or they chose. And other artists, they their work was specifically like in tune with a certain piece or something like that, and they would be down for that.
We just love big machines too. Like we're big fans of big mechanical objects.
Mm-hmm.
We had a show, our last show we did called Masshole, had a jet ski in the middle of it, like on like a stand, you know, which was wonderful. And I thought kind of called back to the car show in a way.
Well, was there anything special about the jet ski? Had it been
It'd been modified by the artist, painted on, etc.
Yeah.
I made a plinth out of Wainwright paneling that looked like a wave. It was fun, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can we take a 2-minute
sure.
bathroom break?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Me and Pietro can keep going too.
Yeah.
If you want to tap out for a sec. Nice.
Fix it in post.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. How you doing, Hobie?
I'm doing good, man. You know, it's always nice to come down to LA.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I appreciate the climate here more and more. You know, the weather, even though today is cloudy, it's still just, for me, you know, being a NorCal bro, growing up in a different climate, coming down here, it's almost like, it's always a little subtropical. Mm-hmm. You know, the first night I got down here, I jumped in the ocean at sunset, which is not really something that, I mean, you can do it back home, but it's being able to get in the ocean and not have to get out right away is just...
It's still freezing here, though. It's not warm at all.
It's all relative. So for me, it feels like a bathtub because I'm used to the North Pacific. But that's interesting, you know, for different people. You're not the only person that's told me that, but when I get in there, it just feels welcoming and embracing and all that. But dude, I'm doing good, man. I got a tall boy hanging with you, hanging with Sash. We're about to go see some comedy here in a little while. And you know, it's good to be down here.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's always good when you come here, Hobie.
Yeah.
It's good to be able to see you outside of the massive family fun time that we have every Christmas in the desert.
Yeah, I think you know, I was telling you and your mom this last night, but it's really not that far. And to me, we're kind of at this time in our lives where, I have the resources to do things like this, but there's enough flexibility in my life to where I can create new traditions if I want. And to me, the tradition of coming down here for 4 or 5 days, doing quick little trips, I think it really, I think it's really can be a powerful thing in nurturing relationships and keeping this sense of closeness with family and friends. You know, one of the things in our family that has been really strong, I would say, is our traditions. You know, we have these, we're kind of split up between Northern California and Southern California, and it's been our annual camping trips and our trips to the desert that have, you know, kept it feeling like a family, which I think is, you know, I know for me is a really important aspect to my life. It's the reason why I've never been able to hold a corporate job because, you know, most corporations, you know, that you go work for, they're like, we'll give you 10 days off a year, or we'll give you 15 days off a year. And for me, I got a week in the summer and a week in the winter that are like family time that I've quit jobs before because I used up all my days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, I'll leave. I'm going to go down to LA to the desert with my family, or I'm going to go to Yosemite. Like that's more important to me than staying at a corporate job. And I also have a life. So like, to me, I'm not going to, that family time is important, those 2 weeks, but I have other stuff during the year too that is important to me as well. And so like this whole like 10 to 15 days of off time a year, what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's too little. That's too little. I mean, in Europe, they got like what? They get like 6 weeks off or something, right? They get so much time off.
Yeah. And
it's like, I know that Sasha's told me like in Moscow, like in the summer, like for the whole month of August, it's just empty. It's like everybody's gone, It's ridiculous. It's just like everybody's constantly just like going and going and going.
It's a healthier orientation to the work-play dynamic. And, lately I've thought about, as I've gotten to this place as a videographer where I am a skilled worker now, and I have like a suite of skills. An essential worker. But I have skills that are relevant and marketable in the economy of today. And I look, I've been thinking lately, like I could go take a tech job and make 6 figures right now. Like I'm at a place now in my career where that's not unrealistic, to where I could go sit down and like expect to get a salary of that amount. And I start thinking, I'm like, what would that meeting look like? I'd probably be in there. I'd be like, I want 150K, but I want to work 4 days a week, on a 3-day weekend. And how much I want all this time off. And like, as I like list off the things that I already have now that I'm already getting, I'm like, none of these guys are going to go for this. None of these companies, are going to go for kind of my minimum requirements to be employed.
Really, the hope is to just get for all of us, for me, for Sasha, for you, for everybody, is for our media careers to pop off. That's what we all want, is just like a media career where we can have a Patreon, right, or an OnlyFans, and get money that way. Just
Pietro could have an OnlyFans for sure.
I personally, I don't even think I'd really want a media career.
Yeah.
Cap.
I want to make guns, and that's about it. When I want to. No, excuse me. I just want to make shit when I want to, and that be it. That's about it.
I mean, that's kind of the...
Fuck me, right?
I mean, that's the artist's dream, right? Is on, like, life on my terms. And that is like the kind of... I think that's like the reality that every creative has to wrestle with until you find a fit that works for you, where you can have that balance of like being able to take care of your material needs and have the stability so that life itself isn't taking away from your creative potential. Because if you're tired all the time because you're like barely scraping by, you're gonna have less energy to make the shit that you want to make.
Or put me in a helicopter, let me fight wildfires.
That's true.
That's pretty badass.
That's a good one.
Anything that takes me like away from the surface of the earth in some like mortal sense. Yeah.
It reminds me, I when I was like 21, 22, I lived in Santa Cruz, and I was living with this seasonal firefighter, and he was on one of those helicopter attack teams where they would get in a helicopter,
shoot that fire down,
fly into the middle of a wildfire, and like him and 6 dudes would get dropped off in the middle of the fire, and their whole job was to fight their way out of it. And they'd have to like essentially like set up a perimeter and kind of like expand their firefighting. But they had these like tents that they could go in that would like protect them to a certain extent. So he would do that for 6 months, and then for the other 6 months he would just collect unemployment and brew beer, and that was like his life.
That sounds awesome.
And I was like, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty awesome existence. It's kind of amazing to me. my stepdad, Bob, was a wildfire fighter in the 70s in, Washington State. And when he was coming up of age, they were like, oh, do you want to be a firefighter? Here's a job. It was like so easy. He didn't have to like really do anything other than say yes. These days you need like 5 years of training and degrees, and it just speaks kind of to where...
Now we have more fires than we had in the 70s.
Right.
So, were they doing it right there? Were they doing it wrong?
Now we just get prisoners.
What show do we have next, Sash?
Yeah, what's this? Tell me about this show that is in the works.
Jackson Demme. It's called Finding Her. It's curated by Elsa Longhauser, founding director of ICALA. It's a museum in Los Angeles. Some of the best paintings I've seen in the last year. If they are the best paintings I've seen in the last year.
Nightmarish.
For sure, if not longer.
Is this a spy project show?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be July 8th. It's going to be a banger. Please come by, Hubby. And if you're not there, what are you doing?
Yeah.
July 8th.
While I was in college, for my senior year, I got an apartment by myself, and I was really on sort of kind of like in an aesthete, I don't know how you say it, like aesthetic vibe where I really didn't even think about getting furniture or anything. So I only got like a mattress, and Sasha got me a big oak desk, and there was already a chair in there for the desk. And so I had all this space. And so I was like, and Jackson needed to store a lot of her paintings. So I was like, well, Jackson, do you want to put all of your paintings in my apartment? So I lived with a lot of her work for like a year. And it really is, it's like that Scooby-Doo thing where like the eyes are watching you, like they go like, no. It's really like she's an excellent artist. And we're really excited about this show.
Awesome. Plenty, I'm sure you were being watched at some of your most intimate moments by these paintings, so I would assume you have a very special connection.
Uh-oh.
My most intimate moments. I got a skin infection that was like apparently only native to Brazil.
Oh, wow.
I'm not, and we're not blaming that on my diet or on my like hygiene. I think it was almost certainly like a spiritual, like metaphysical response to that work.
That's actually something I'm chasing in my art practice is pieces that actually like affect the physical world in like a tangible way. So Jackson, I guess beat me to it.
Physical the physical
manifestation of exotic disease.
Is that like spells and stuff, or is that what we're talking about?
No. As in,
she's spiritually inclined.
She is.
But like, are these paintings that cast? It sounds like you got
no.
spelled.
These paintings, no. They don't need to. Their impact is entirely just their like
cranial.
Yeah, and it is purely like you look at these. You look at this work, and your body just starts to fall apart. It just
from euphoria.
Yeah, you decompose because it realizes there's nothing else there.
It's like a cocoon caterpillar vibe.
Nice.
Into a butterfly.
What's the medium that she uses in her paintings?
Fucking anything she can get her hands on. It's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of like
found items.
Everything. Like you put it in front of her, she'll use it. With some taste.
Yeah, last, besides, she's also in this group show that we're doing, Duets in Color Breathing. Currently, that's on view right now. Duets in Color Breathing, curated by Shay Meyerson. The first work of hers we showed were these dolls that she'd made that were like latex, plasticine, like these crazy, crazy things. And so we're also going to be showing like the next iteration of those. They're called Raybo dolls. Raybo, and we're just really hyped on it. We're hyped on it.
So, is this a single artist show? This next show?
Yeah.
This is the first one of those you guys have done?
No, we did a solo show with Mia Scarpa before this one.
Was that the Masshole?
Yeah.
Gotcha. How does that process differ from the multi-artist?
I think it's more fun just helping like an artist's vision come true.
You can make it more total, like fluid exhibition.
Okay.
It's all the work. even if it's the work is in different mediums, like kind of different veins, it's still all one brain, kind of putting that out there.
And you can do more like large scale interventions without kind of like sacrificing the integrity of the other pieces because it's all one artist, you know?
Like curatorially, like you could like putting a jet ski in the middle of the show or something like that, like doing stuff like that like screws around with like the space and like how the work is put together. But because it's all one work, it's all one artist anyways, like it's still like there's still a unity there. There's still like, you know, something like
I'd
that.
imagine it's easier to maintain a theme.
For sure. Yeah.
Sasha, so I remember when we did our first podcast together, you had one of your pieces in that show that we were talking about.
Oh yeah, our first show.
Do you have are you still, where are you at right now with your projects? Are you still doing the gun project? Or?
Yep. Just me and my little brother making guns in my studio.
And you've shown those recently too, right?
Yeah, we did like the spring break art fair with those. That was a good learning experience. Just keep.
Will you talk about what that project is, and just for people who are unaware of what it is?
The guns.
Mm-hmm.
So I make guns with my little brother. They're wooden guns that work if you believe hard enough. And that was in service, or I guess like the gun. I stopped painting because I hate painting, or hated painting. I'm starting to like it more now. Since
You went
I'm
through a
not doing
hate paint phase?
Yeah, I was like, what's the farthest I can get from painting, really? And on top of that, like, what am I just going to, like, I want to be fulfilled in the studio. So me and my little brother just started making guns. And then, people responded really well in various ways, probably the most varied ways possible, which was really nice to see. And I'm making art that has, like, consequence, as I put it, finally. Whereas, like, paintings can't really affect people or like reality the way these pieces can. I mean, you can't point a painting at someone and like have a visceral reaction from them the way that these work. Or
When we did the fair, with the way we'd set it up is people could like pick up the guns and like, you know, play with them, and there were people who wouldn't even touch them because they just were like, I don't like guns. You know, they're just pieces of wood.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, that speaks to like, you know, the effect and like psychological impact of the work.
Oh.
Yeah, we're actually going to do a Sasha show next summer. That's 100% confirmed that we're going to do it. It's going to be explosive.
Speaking of that, let me find it. I gave a gun to my friend as like a housewarming thing a week ago or something, and he texted me saying just like a few days ago, someone that he had over, like, stop playing with that. It's not a toy. It's a gun. And I was like, exactly.
He said that to his friend?
Or no, someone he had over said that to him because he was playing around with it.
And they are just pieces of wood. Like they are pieces of wood, but they're also guns.
Yeah.
You know, it's a shamanic symbol. Like it really is like the political like weight of like something that looks like a gun is, you know, as an object is like in this country is very like has a lot to it, you know.
Well, I think you could argue it's never been more relevant than right at this very moment we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally the national debate or the national conversation. Mm-hmm. However you feel about it, it's all centered around this object. Mm. I'm curious, what has the reaction been, you know, as an artist to making these things? Is
my personal reaction
just that you're getting from people that experience
it? Either it's either like a zealous disgust or like just amazement or interest. It's like all over on. Mm-hmm. There's no like, it's not like a bell curve. It's like a.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people either hate it or love it. Like it's very polarizing
in like all different ways. My fascination with it is just like as a symbol of like an extension of like will. Like there's nothing more potent as like a symbol of that, I guess.
Yeah, especially in this country.
Yeah,
especially after recent events.
Yeah, well. And I mean we all I know in my generation, and I'm sure in yours as well, like we all grew up playing with guns. Like Nerf guns were, I mean, I used to go every summer. These kids in my class, shout out the Smithymans, would have a water gun fight at their big property. And literally, like, everyone would beg their mom, like, hey, I need to get a new water gun for the big water gun fight, you know, and you go to the store and it's like the XP 6000, and you're like drooling, you know. One year I got 2 smaller ones so I could have dual hands, and our parents were like, it was a celebration of, it was innocent, you know, we were just having fun spraying each other with water on a hot summer day. And, you know, the symbolism wasn't that we were killing each other. It kind of was that we were killing each other in a playful way. But it was more of like this kind of sport, you know, fun. I'm going to spray you. I'm going to spray you.
That's another thing is like my goal is so everyone in the whole wide world will have one of my guns. Because when you're holding it, you do feel like you're holding a real gun. So when you're making decisions at a gunpoint, essentially you're holding other people. Like it's clear that your decisions have impacts. Even your opinions have impacts that you would otherwise not think about. And that's really the point I'm trying to get across, I guess, is that regardless, I mean, anything, how you feel, everything has a consequence to it. Like you there's a price you're paying for, like shopping at Erewhon, or, you know, wearing one thing over another, or hanging out with a certain type of people over another certain type of people.
When you're making these guns, are they, is each piece like based off a specific model? Like, what do you do for research?
I mean, we have a bunch of like encyclopedia of gun books, but we ran through that pretty quick. It's just how we feel on a certain day. A lot of them are like amalgamations of different ones, or
one of the one that got a lot of responses at the fair was like the one Conrad made. That was just like a model of the gun he had in COD, with all like the modifications and like attachments to it. You know?
Yeah, as far as like the building of the actual things goes, it's a spectrum from like more abstract to literal, like recreations.
My favorite ones are like the ones he used, like where he used parts of like a chair, like to make like the barrel and everything. They look beautiful, like they're gorgeous.
They kind of remind me almost of like a physical manifestation of the old school pixelated guns from like GoldenEye, from like an N64. Like it seems almost like you've taken, you know, a lot of us grew up playing these video games when the pixels were still large, and you have these really blocky, you know, artful representations of a real object, and you've kind of taken that and re-analogued it into the physical world, in a sense.
And at the end of the day, I'm just giving them out to like friends and other artists, because, you know, you can't be undefended in your studio or home. It's just not an option these days.
Not anymore, no.
Yeah.
Lock your doors.
Nice. Have you ever thought about making ammo?
We've done some like belts, canvas and wood. So
yeah, that's
more like a kind of like a factory line kind of setup, I feel like. And my setup right now is not super conducive to small parts,
right?
Which it's in the works, but for right now, not so much.
It's interesting how, you know, I think especially children of the 80s and 90s, you know, I guess you could argue even going back further, there's always kind of been this like a interest, obsession that boys have with military, with war, with combat. And I've spent some time thinking about that because, like, you know, I also consider myself a bit of a pacifist. I'm not a violent guy. And yet I still, you know, growing up, I drew a lot of guns. I drew a lot of tanks and planes and a lot of my toys, micro machines. And I play video games. I play Call of Duty. And, like, I don't have any desire to harm anybody or kill anybody. But I think that there is this, like, fascination with it does something to your brain when you're thinking about like achieving a goal, whether it's hunting, trying to hit a target.
It's like making decisions, but
over there.
Right. And it's, all of our sports are based off of military traditions, from shooting a ball into a hoop to throwing a football. Like, these are all skills that were originally, made their way into the human psychology through hunting and through, protection and conquest. And, as we're having this kind of national debate about gun violence, and I know a lot of people, especially on the left side of the political spectrum, have a real disgust for like militarism and gun worship and these qualities that are involved in that. I think it's I think it's important that we stay aware that there are these kind of objective qualities.
They're cool.
That they're cool. But that we as humans like kind of innately have that are kind of like epigenetically written into our DNA. They're like survival things. They're things that are like we developed it during the times of tribal hunter-gatherers.
In Rome in the 17th century, you needed a license to carry a sword, to like open carry a sword walking around. And if you look at the Caravaggio's arrest records, he got arrested multiple times for carrying around a sword and using it, but without a license.
He didn't have an open carry?
He did not have an open carry license, but he refused not to carry it because it was also the people who would get them were like nobility, like
right.
If you were noble. But he would carry around the sword a lot. He got in a very famously around towards the end of his life. He basically he got into like a fight over at a tennis court that ended in a duel where he killed the guy, and then he basically I think swam. No, he didn't swim. He then ran away, fled to Malta, where he became a Knight of Malta. Then got kicked out 2 days later, and he
Caravaggio, you said?
Yeah, Caravaggio. One of the in the Western canon of art is one of the most important painters, I would say. I think anybody would say that.
Gotcha.
And he went to Malta, became a knight, got kicked out, and I think died. He drowned when he tried to swim back to the mainland from the island. That is to say, they're sexy. There's a Freudian sexual, power that goes with the gun. And that will never go away.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No, continue.
I was just going to say it's interesting, listening to your Roman story, where you had this kind of class qualification on who got to be licensed to license violence by class, right? Like that the rich were allowed to carry weapons, right? Mm-hmm. And we, right now there's a bill being debated, it's this new gun reform bill that would essentially ban these certain weapons or whatever. And one of the provisions in that bill is that there's an exemption for private security. So once again, we're seeing this kind of cycle of
very RoboCop-esque.
The rich aren't going to give up their guns. They're going to still.
I want a Predator drone. I think that's the way to make it fair. Is you have universal access to Patriot missiles, Predator drones. I want a A1 Abrams tank. We should be allowed to have these things because who is to say that I would use it any worse than an 18-year-old who's trying to get get a degree in fucking communications in college in fucking I guess not Afghanistan now, in Somalia, who has access to these things.
No,
I should have access
in a container in Nevada.
Oh yeah, they're in a trailer in Nevada, basically with a Xbox controller, controlling these planes. Who cares? What says that they can have it and I can't? I could think of 1,000 uses for a Predator drone right now.
Would you settle for a wooden Predator drone? Because I think we can make that happen.
I believe that it could fly. So yes,
it's next up.
Next up, yeah.
I think we could get you a wooden one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right on. So this show Sasha, that you have coming up, what is that centered around? Like, what is the...
You'll have to come and see.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still a big box of question marks. Is it in line with what you've been working on, I guess?
It is the essential core of what we've been working on.
It's the apex?
Yeah.
Okay.
Apotheosis. There's your clue.
Yeah,
Okay.
the term is apotheosis.
Yes.
Ascension.
I read that recently in a... What is that? I feel like that's a big word in one of the Dan Brown novels, or... Don't they deal with that word?
I mean, it's like it's to rise to like
spiritual
divinity.
transcendence,
Right? It's to become divine.
Nice.
And I think that will be the experience of both the viewer and the artist for Sasha's show.
Apotheosis guaranteed? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, or your money back. Or your money back.
That's so fire.
It's a good name for a show.
Name for a show. That's a good name for a show.
You guys need some like 50 style.
Clip it.
You need some like 50 styles proper propaganda for your like promotional
yes.
materials.
I'm a big fan of
kinda
propaganda.
Like propaganda art, you know, maybe you need to create some of that.
Yes,
you know?
sir.
I'm doing my part. Like a thumbs up or something.
Yeah.
Right on, bros. Well, I'm trying to think if there's any other... If we have any other little... Is there anything else you guys want to mention? Or
I think that's about it. Thank you, Hobie. This was awesome.
Dude, thanks for coming on. And you guys, what's the name of the show that's going on right now? And
It's the show that's up right now at 3709 West Jefferson Boulevard. We're open 11 to 6, Wednesdays through Sundays in Los Angeles. The name of the show is Duets in Color Breathing. It's curated by Shay Meyerson. And it's a really good show. You guys should stop by if you're listening and see it. I'll be there. I'm always there.
Pietro's always there. And how can people find you, connect with you?
Go to our website, projects.com, or follow us on Instagram at Spy Projects, all one word. It's doing numbers right now, so follow while you can so you could say you've been there first.
Yeah, I heard your numbers are surging.
They're fucking spiking right now.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. Appreciate you both. And hey man, let's party.
Thanks, Hobie.
It's been a pleasure, Hobie.